People prone to envy have higher levels of depression and anxiety. Envy doesn't just make you bitter, it makes you ill. So why do we ignore it and even mistake it for jealousy? There's a difference. Stay tuned for more.
You're listening to the Inquisitive Wren podcast, the show that brings you philosophical ponderings of your life from a bird's eye view. Now, here's your host, Shah.
Jealousy or envy? Which one are you actually experiencing? In today's episode of the podcast, I break down the subtle but powerful differences between the two and why it matters for your healing and for your relationships. I've also created a free self-assessment worksheet to help you figure it out. Score yourself honestly, reflect gently, and then begin to let go. It's a process. Listen now and grab your free download via the link in the show notes below. And do let me know how you get on. Today, we're talking about an emotion that wears many disguises. It's corrosive, it's sneaky, and if left unchecked, it can quietly hollow us out from the inside. Yes, we are diving into the topic of envy. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and recently I've seen so much envy that I just had to record this for you today. Now, before you think, oh no, that's not me, remember this: envy is a part of being human. It's not just the cliche of the neighbor's new car or the friend's seemingly perfect life on Instagram. I mean, it can live in the smallest corners of our relationships, our work life, and even our spiritual growth. You can even see people who appear to be quite level-headed, quite ethical, suffer from envy. And here's a twist. Envy often gets confused with jealousy. They are very different. They are not the same thing. And even I have said in the past, oh, jealousy and envy. I have a recording out helping people get rid of jealousy and envy. As long as I've been in private practice, 25 years plus, I have certainly seen a lot of envy. But envy and jealousy are not the same, and I've seen a lot of jealousy as well. So understanding the difference could be the very first step in taking away envy's power. It's the green-eye trap. Understanding envy, jealousy, and their emotional fallout. Stay tuned. Fear doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, keeping you from the life you deserve. I'm Charlene Willante, therapist and coach, and I've created What If You Were Brave Enough? How to actually move beyond fear to get what you really want. This is a powerful 5-module course that will help you calm fear, challenge old stories, and take real confident steps forward. If you want to move house, if you want to get into a relationship, if you want to change careers, whatever it is that you've been wanting to do, but something is keeping you from doing it, you'll get the full course that will help you to move forward. It's a beautifully designed workbook, inspiring quote cards, and a library of additional resources. Plus, my personal stories, clinical research, and over 2 decades of professional experience. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be brave enough. Click the link below, and I'll see you there. Let's start with a very clear definition. So, envy is when you want what someone else has. You may even use the word hate. I've heard people say, I hate that person, and they don't know why. It's because they're envious of them. So you may resent or hate them for having it. And when people say, oh, hate is a strong emotion, well, yes, because we know historically it's led to very dire consequences for many people. But hate, again, like envy and every other emotion, is an emotion. So you can feel hate. So we want to approach all of this without judging the emotion itself. What we're going to be looking at here is the consequences of it. So you may resent someone for having what you want, so much so that you'll do everything to either take it from them, belittle what they have, make them maybe feel bad about themselves for having it, and gossip in the hopes of making other people dislike the person, which is awful. Think of when a new car is keyed. Now, that's jealousy. I like what you have. I hate that you have it, and therefore I'm going to ruin it for you. That's jealousy and envy. That's jealousy part is, I see what you have. I like it, so that's jealousy. I wish I had it. That's jealousy. Envy, where it turns to be envy, is someone consciously keying the car. That's envy. You're pushed to an emotion, because you do it to yourself, whereby you feel you need to act on it. So another example is, let's say someone tells others something private about you, that you only told them, in the hopes, though, of their opinion changing about you. So they're trying to change other people's opinions. So they may repeat something very personal, something very private that they trusted you with. That's envy, because that is ruining it for the person who trusted you. It's deliberately treating someone differently, because you won't do that to everyone. Speaking of which, if you deliberately treat someone differently, you look down on them, you belittle their experience and expertise, you may even work to make sure they can't display their expertise. And perhaps you even give them dirty looks, which they will deny doing. That's envy. Think of it this way. Jealousy is a love triangle. Envy is a two-person staring contest where you feel you've drawn the short straw. So I like to akin it to a two-person staring down contest. And in fact, psychologists Parrott and Smith, in their 1993 research, they put it beautifully. They said jealousy involves threat of loss, and envy involves painful comparison. Painful comparison. The only thing that makes it painful is the thinking about it. And some people are prone to envy, and it's all to do with how they grew up, but everything is. So if your friend gets the job that you wanted and you belittle them, you tell them, oh, well, you'll probably mess that up, or you say something horrible, or you post something nasty, that's envy. If your partner starts texting someone else late at night, let's say it's a work colleague and it's only about work, but you start to get angry with him or swear at the person, or you get upset with her, whatever it is, that's jealousy. Envy versus jealousy. Jealousy is about losing what you have, and envy is about resenting what someone else has. And my experience in helping others who suffer from envy and jealousy is that envy is destructive. Jealousy is annoying. It's awful. And I have to say, when you're the subject of envy, and I've been the subject of envy and jealousy, and we'll talk about that because people have ideas about who could be jealous, could somebody be jealous of this person? We'll come on to that. But jealousy and envy are very different, because envy really seeks to destroy everything. Jealousy is more annoying, and if you've been the subject of jealousy, it's very uncomfortable, but it isn't as uncomfortable as envy. If someone envies you, it's very uncomfortable because you don't know what's going to happen. Jealousy is uncomfortable too, because you feel bad for the person that they actually think that way, that they actually are looking to you as someone who has something that they don't. It's a mindset, and it's skewed, it's disruptive, and it's a disorder. Envy is the painful emotion that arises when we lack something another person possesses. So this could be status, success or perceived success, perceived beauty. These things are all relative. Love, perceived love. You know, we look at people who are celebrities, and we look at fanatics who say they love them. You know, okay, maybe they do, but, you know, the perception of love is very skewed, and we feel inferior or resentful because of it. In fact, you hate them for it, as I was saying before. So before I give some very recognizable examples, let's go to psychology for a moment. The psychological definition is that envy, jealousy are reactions to perceived inferiority, and I believe that's the case for both. But the key emotion is longing plus resentment. And jealousy, on the other hand, it typically involves a triangular relationship where we fear losing something or someone that we already have to another person. So it's a lack mentality, but you've already had it, so now you're going to lose it. You perceive that you'll lose it. So it's like a partner's attention, or you'll lose a job position. So someone may be envious of a new person coming into a company. For some reason, they may fear that they will lose their position. How could that be? How could you perceive that? Unless there's a reason for it. But usually there isn't. And I want to give a little reference here, psychological research reference, Parrott and Smith in 1993. So they did a paper, and they talked about how to distinguish the experiences of envy and jealousy. And you can read that. It's in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. When I went looking for a lot of the scientific research, there's tons of it. And it's because sibling rivalry, sibling envy, sibling jealousy dates back to biblical times and before. This is a normal human emotion. The problem is that some people never grow out of it. And depending on your environment, and we'll touch upon sociology later, but depending on your environment, you could carry it on. So, beyond the playground. And some people believe that bullying doesn't happen in adulthood, and that's such an ignorant view. Bullying is at its highest at the moment. The number of people who are seeking help for bullying and harassment at work is astronomical. I recently had to do some research on this for a different reason. And the feedback, and I was stunned at how many cases there are. And some companies, they do sort of portray or cultivate a culture of abuse. So you have to be aware. So let's look at the psychology of envy. Core psychological drivers and social comparison, which is by Festinger, 54, we evaluate ourselves by comparing with others, especially those similar to us. So that could be anything from race to nationality to location. Perceived injustice plays a huge part. So believing that someone doesn't deserve what they have, and that is usually linked to low self-worth. How and why are you comparing what other people have to you? There's a narcissistic view about that, and we're going to touch upon that, I'm afraid, because every narcissist is an envious person. Every narcissist suffers from envy to the extent where it's been criminal, and I'm going to have to give some examples of that later on. But low self-worth in people, and they have very fragile self-esteem, they're more prone to envy. So again, if you weren't nurtured in a way that supported your growth, then you will hold on to that very primitive, because it's very primitive instinct and emotion, envy. And also the desire for significance plays a part. So envy can emerge from a need to feel valued or validated. And people can have odd ideas about that, about being validated or valued, and they may envy somebody, which makes no sense. Festinger also talked about benign envy and malicious envy. So there's two main flavors here. Benign envy. And benign envy is, an example would be, you've achieved something amazing and I want to work to get there too. So let's say you're watching somebody, maybe you're looking at their profile or Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and you see that they're progressing, they're getting somewhere, they're really achieving things for themselves and their family. And you look at them and go, oh, that's amazing. I wish I had that. Well, how can I get that? Let me email them and see if they can give me some tips. That's jealousy because you want what they have. But you haven't gone beyond that. In fact, you've used it to your advantage. You've used it as inspiration. However, malicious envy is when you've achieved something amazing and you wish the person didn't have it. In fact, you wish the person didn't have it so badly that you seek to take it from them, to ruin it for them. So that is, an example of that would be someone making false claims against you at work. That's envy. You wish you had what the person has. It could be experience, expertise, could be the way you speak, the way you look, the way you walk, all of it. It could be none of those things. It could be just because this person is a narcissist and they envy anything on any day. But that turns ugly. So that could ruin a person's work life, their reputation. They may have to leave a job because the harassment's so bad. They may end up suing the company, which would be very uncomfortable because there are laws, in England there are, where you can prove it. If you're into living with purpose, clarity, and soul, check out the Aligned Living newsletter. I'm genuinely obsessed with creating it. Every month, I share strategies that actually work, and this is drawn from 25 plus years as a therapist, plus powerful insights into spiritual and personal growth. And you'll get access to free resources like the Aligned Living Journal, full e-courses, guided meditations, discounts on the e-courses and personal appearances, and tools to help you shift your energy, habits, and mindset, all for free when you sign up. I'm building this with so much heart and honesty, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Head to the link in the show notes and join me today.
Never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button right now. Thank you for your support. You make this podcast possible. Now, back to the show.
And you can speak to people who can help you with that. So there is help out there. Another piece of research by Van de Ven and colleagues in 2009, they found that benign envy can actually motivate us. So as I was speaking before about this, a motivation, inspiration, but contrary to that, malicious envy can lead to hostility, sabotage, and burnout. And here's the thing, envy often emerges when our sense of self-worth feels threatened. And that means you've got a fragile ego from the jump. There's something wrong with you and your ego. And all the cases I've seen, I have tons of case studies because I worked with people who suffered from envy, who had personality disorders. I've worked in 3 different teams. And envy is usually the root of their disruption. They hate that somebody can get on with life and they can't. So when you have self-worth issues, that just amplifies it. If you're feeling insecure, overlooked, undervalued, coveting someone else's success, it can feel like a spotlight on your perceived shortcomings. It could be like it's being your shortcomings or your perceived shortcomings are being highlighted. But here's the thing. One thing we have learned, and there is some research out there, is that those people usually do have shortcomings. Unfortunately, they have. And one of the reasons they're so envious is because they will never look like that person. They will never be that person. They will never be as intelligent as that person. They will never have the characteristics of that person. And they hate it. But that's the trick, you see. That's where it goes from jealousy to envy. They hate it so much that they seek to destroy it. They seek to destroy the person, so bit by bit they start picking at them, having a go. They get other people involved as well. So we call these flying monkeys when people are being bullied. So these are other weak people, but they're weaker. They're even weaker than the bully because they haven't got enough self-esteem to stand the ground and to make their own judgments. And they're afraid of the bully. They are actually afraid of the bully, and that's why they're flying monkeys. And also, you may find that people in higher positions who could be running the company sometimes, they will sit back and watch it happen. They will sit back and say nothing, and you can see that they notice it, but they won't intervene. Why? Because there is a part of them that is a bully too. And there's a part of them that actually enjoys it. And if you're faced with that, it means that you're in a culture of abuse. Run as fast as you can. Here are examples of types of envy, malicious envy. I want what you have, and I don't want you to have it. So I'm going to work to get it from you. So to take your position, to ruin your reputation, to ruin your personality, to make people think bad about you, to start rumors, to create smear campaigns against you. I'm going to work to do it. That's malicious envy. Benign envy can act as a motivator for growth, which we've already talked about. And if you feel that you are suffering from benign envy or benign jealousy, benign envy is jealousy really. So benign envy, then use everything you can to be motivated to get what you need. It may not look like what the person portrays. It may be something else. And that's the other trick. You don't know what a person's life is like behind closed doors. So all the Instagram posts and all the Facebook stuff, you don't know what their day is like. That's for show. It usually isn't for family and friends, of course, because they know. So let's look at the dangers of envy, because this is really important. And psychological and emotional symptoms. So they can include rumination, intrusive thoughts, feelings of inferiority, shame, and chronic dissatisfaction. You could also have impulses toward passive-aggressive behavior or sabotage. This is the same as trying to ruin someone's professional reputation. And you could suffer from very low mood, anxiety, or even depression. The reason why this is very serious is because the person being attacked can suffer emotionally, psychologically, and physically. This type of harassment and bullying, which is envy, because all narcissists are envious, can lead to other people harming themselves. And unfortunately, we have very dire examples of that. Many have been in the press where people have taken their own lives because of envy from the public, envy, jealousy from other people. They have had mental health problems because of it. And this is why I advise people to get away and get out of a situation when someone is envious. because left unchecked, envy can be dangerous. Envy seeks to destroy. It fuels rumination. Those endless mental loops replaying, why should she have it? Why should he have it? Why shouldn't I have that? Why am I not like that? It erodes relationships because it's hard to truly celebrate someone when you secretly resent them. And it's linked to increased depression. So if you're already depressed, that will only increase it. Also for the person who's envious, they will become more depressed. They may turn up saying, oh, I'm a bit depressed. That's because they're envious. That's because that mental loop is going in their mind about you, about the person they're envious about. You live in their minds. And this is why, and I was going to say separating yourself, getting out, isn't often the final result because the person can then stalk you. We've got cases in the press and in courts where people who have been envious have stalked people. They've literally stalked them. And also this includes exes, whereby they've ended relationships, they hate the person, but they're envious of them. And so they stalk them. Very serious. In workplaces, envy can be a hidden toxin. So I was just speaking about toxicity in a workplace. Vecchio in 2005 did a research paper on how this is the case. So he found that, now this is interesting, he found that managers sometimes suppress talented subordinates purely because their success felt threatening. Over time, this isn't just about mental health. Chronic envy is a stress state, and it affects your immune system, sleep quality, cardiovascular health. It's like carrying a constant low-level threat signal in your body. It's like your body's under threat all the time. And if you're someone who's quite healthy, mentally, physically, let's say you spent a decade in a work situation that was lovely, that was no problem, that was supportive and helpful, and then you change and you go into a situation that you thought was going to be nice, but you're faced with chaos and toxicity. That will affect your immune system. You'll become ill all the time. You never got colds before, and all of a sudden you're getting lots of colds. It will affect everything. Schadenfreude, also pleasure in another's misfortune. So I was looking up how envy can affect people's ability to see things clearly, proportionately. Pleasure in another's misfortune. People who celebrate people's downfalls. They'll say, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's a shame. And secretly, they love it. This creates gossip, slander, passive-aggressive behavior, and withdrawal from social groups to avoid feelings of inadequacy. So people will start to sequester themselves. They'll start to become isolated because they are too envious. And I say, good, stay indoors. Leave other people alone. If you need to hide away, do. But in the meantime, seek some help. But yes, do stay away. Do stay away. When I've helped people who suffer from envy and they've been made aware of it, sometimes they've been made aware of it in therapy. So sometimes that is a revelation. And they may want to isolate because of the behaviors that they have been portraying, harming others because they are harming. Bullies harm other people. So they are harming others. I would say, maybe you should stay away from that group. So we're going to talk about the long-term dangers. Disconnection from community and relationships, career and creative stagnation. So this is becoming comparison paralysis. And of course, we touched upon health issues like chronic stress. A study by Smith et al. 1999 found that high envy-prone individuals had higher levels of depression, higher levels of anxiety, and lowered self-esteem than low envy-prone individuals. One way to tell, especially in the workplace, if someone is envious, is to see if, because one thing envious people do is they copy the person that they're envious of. And I know it's like an oxymoron, but they do. They will start to speak like them, behave like them, get their vocal tone, maybe even start to try and look like them. They will start to emulate the people they're envious of. And which means they will start to cover and steal the person's identity. So anything you say, they will use it. I remember saying something in front of someone who I knew was envious. And I was watching how they started to copy the things that I said. They're unaware that I'm as aware. And so I said something in front of them, something like, well, of course, we're all dying. And they obviously repeated that because their flying monkey then repeated that to someone in front of everyone. And they're flying monkey. They're in that little hub, that group. So the envious person will repeat and try and do everything you say. And the way to tell if you need any more proof, you wouldn't, is to see if they give credit for copying you. The things that they copy and say, you might give them advice and they may take credit for it. So notice that. As a part of the Let Go series, I created Let Go of Jealousy and Envy, which is accompanied by inspirational music. And my goal with this recording was to help you to come to an agreement with a very natural but very often disturbing and unsettling and sometimes havoc-wreaking thoughts and emotions that are associated with jealousy and envy. This in turn can change how you react and behave in response to these feelings and even calm and change them. I remain dedicated to helping others connect with the part of themselves that can help to facilitate change, transformation, and as you quieten your mind with a sense of relaxation, you can achieve transformation and a sense of wholeness and well-being. These recordings are designed using skilled meditative and visual enhancing tools to help you to achieve personal growth. It is not advised that they are a replacement in any way for medical attention. The therapeutic content of these products do not promise to fully alleviate or cure any particular physical or mental illness or disease, ailment, or medical condition. These recordings can be used in conjunction with guidance or instruction by a medical advisor. Let Go of Jealousy and Envy can help you to settle yourself into a space and place of calm so that you can take a step back and view how these thoughts and emotions are affecting your life and how they may be affecting others' lives. When you are in alignment, you no longer wish to hurt other people. You no longer wish to inflict hurt on other people. And many of these emotions are unconscious. The reasons behind them are unconscious. And these recordings were created to help you to unveil and unleash and release a lot of the unconscious mindset thoughts around the behavior associated with these emotions. Let Go of Jealousy and Envy is available on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, and wherever you stream your music. The other thing to look out for about envious people is their lack of boundaries. It's due to their insecurity. And if you have healthy boundaries, they will hate it. In fact, they will usually use it against you. They will portray to people that you're not doing enough, you're not working hard enough, when actually you work smart, you know how to get things done, and you're organized. That's how you become who you are. So it's a phenomenon, but again, it's down to narcissism and envy. If you have a manager that suffers from envy, then they will belittle you. They won't support you. They will try and give you menial tasks to do that an administrator should be doing. And know this, it's a power play. And if you are an inexperienced person, you won't see what's being done. You may find yourself not liking the person that they're envious of, but you won't know why. It's because unconsciously you've overheard something, you've overheard the flying monkey say something, or you overheard the person, or you've unconsciously observed, the way the envious person has treated that person. And all of a sudden, you don't like them. You don't even know them, and you don't like them. And that's ignorance. That's ignorance on your part, but it's also, these people will fall hard. The lies are insurmountable, and envious people constantly lie. Narcissists lie all the time, and they stick to their lies. So the other thing about envious people is that you can tell if somebody says, if they stick to a lie, without a doubt they will stick to the lie. When someone has moved from envy to jealousy, you may hear them say other things. I'm not going to go into it because that will tell the envious people what to say and do. This is what narcissists do. One of the things that narcissists do or try to do, because many therapists won't take them on because there's no cure for personality disorder, but what they will do is try and go to a therapist to try and learn tricks to portray themselves as not a narcissist. So I'm going to touch upon the destructiveness of envy. Some cases of malicious envy that are quite well known. I will cite two. Tanya Harding was a figure skater, and she attacked her competitor, Nancy Kerrigan, with a baton to the knee. And Tanya was banned for life from skating events. She was desperate to win, but she was also envious of Kerrigan, who was receiving a lot of praise, a lot of recognition at the time. She hated this person so much that she physically attacked her to try and ruin her chances of winning. One of the worst cases was the singer Selena, whose life was taken, sadly, by the president of her fan club, who was found to be embezzling money. Now, this is a case of, I want what you have. I will do everything to get close to it so that I can destroy it and take it from you. Now, you might say, well, she was found out for embezzling money. Yes, but think about it. That doesn't always result in homicide. And there are many other cases, but you get the point. Envy seeks to destroy. And as I was doing the research, the cases were so many that I just didn't want to bring, this is already heavy enough. And there are many other cases. So envy seeks to destroy. If someone is envious of you, they will also have the narcissistic personality disorder. And this is a phenomenon. A lot of people can't see it in people. Because I'm trained in it, I can spot it. But the narcissist will hate that, and they will not want that person around. They'll create lies about you, accuse you of all heinous things. And if they cannot find anything wrong with you as such, they'll make it up. And they'll gossip, start campaigns against you to try and turn people against you. They are not mentally healthy people at all. So run as fast as you can. Get out of that relationship. Get out of that friendship. Get out of that job. Or get out of that home. Because if you're living with people who are envious, they will destroy your clothing, your things. You'll find your things missing. If you're at home and you're a younger person living at home with an envious, jealous sibling, you will find the same. Now, some of the worst cases of envy actually include fratricide. And fratricide is rare. This is when siblings take each other's lives. So it's rare, but when it occurs, very specific circumstances may lead to an older sibling taking the life of a younger one and vice versa. And there was a recent case of a 22-year-old woman taking her sister's life and her niece over sibling rivalry. This tale of sibling rivalry goes way back. And it's because it's a human tale. And if you have a sibling who's envious of you, you need to watch your back, as things could turn very ugly. I've seen people physically harmed by their siblings. I've seen them so distraught that they've got to separate themselves from their siblings. I've seen people go, they call it gray rock. Because narcissists are jealous people, envious people. It creates chaos, but it's unlikely to be as deadly as envy. We're going to touch now upon, so we're going to talk about cultural norms and capitalism, Western societies, where it's emphasized about individual achievement, wealth, beauty, social status. Social media creates a culture of highlight reel comparison, especially affecting younger people and women. And Instagram has been found to significantly increase feelings of envy, which is a shame, really, because there's some very beautiful things on Instagram. I particularly like the animals, the cats, because we have cats, and it's amazing. But if you are prone to envy, you're probably better to stay off of it. But it's particularly around lifestyle and appearance. So Q and Edge 2012 and Tandock and Tell in 2015, they talked a lot about you don't have to look at the under 30s for this. You might think, but just look at the older generation, 50 to 80-year-olds. Listen to their talk, their gossip, their hatred, their despise. Sometimes it's of younger people, and they can become envious of youth. When you see comments in a comment section or on people's page or Instagram that are very negative, I'll give you an example. Someone I came across, things come up on your feed, and someone was camping or doing something lovely and nice in the wilderness and everything. And they had taken a solo trip. And someone posted, aren't you afraid of the harmful man? Because they're all out there and they'll be looking for people like you. They'll probably come and get you. Now, that person, to write something like that, and I hear people say, oh, people are just miserable. It's more than that. They're envious. That lifestyle looked so relaxed, so calm, so lovely. Somebody's suffering in their own minds, because if they've got facility to access Instagram, and if they've got Instagram, then they're not that bad off. So in their own minds, they're lacking, and they want to ruin it for the person, because that was a very nasty comment to make to a woman. So it could be misogynistic as well, but to make to a woman who was clearly having a lovely time. It could have been the only time that they got to take a break. I once had a neighbor who must have been in her 30s, and I was about 13, 14 at the time. When we used to visit my auntie, one of my favorite aunts, favorite aunt, I've got some beautiful, I've got some lovely family members that I'm still very close to. When I used to go and visit her, she's so perceptive, and she's an educator, so she just knows everything. She can see right through people as well. And I didn't even have to say anything. She just sort of came out and said, you know what? That lady across the road there, make sure that when you're with your friends, because I was very popular. I had loads of friends. Our family always looked nice. We were revered in the neighborhood. People liked us. My grandmother especially, because they lived right next door to each other. And that's how close the family is. So my grandmother was very much revered. And during hurricanes, natural disasters and things like that, she would take people in and feed them, and families. And I remember there was a family of 12 living not too far from them. And they struggled a lot of the time. And my grandparents really took care of them. And I have to say, to this day, when I run into some of them, when I visit, they always say, oh, your grandmother just took care of us. And she was so nice and kind to us. She would give us food and the hurricanes and all. So they still remember that. Imagine having that kind of legacy. Anyway, this woman who was new to the neighborhood, I just remember that. She was new to the neighborhood. When you're 13, 14, you're becoming a woman, aren't you? You're developing, guys start coming around and looking at you and things. But we would notice, my auntie noticed, that she would stare a lot at me. She would stand on her porch. We had a bike club. We had a dance club. Everybody would meet at mine. So we would go and there were about 10 of us, all hanging out. A mixture of boys and girls. I'm still in touch with most of them. Yes, with most of them, actually. So they would come around. But my auntie said to me, you know what, Shah? That lady over there, and I remember saying, I don't know her. I know she's new. She's new, isn't she? She said, you know what? Watch her. And tell your friends as well not to be around her. So we did. We would all be aware just to be separate from her. I mean, she had children. She was married, everything. So she had children and everything. But so it wasn't, I don't think it was anything about harming us physically, but for some reason, she was focused on me. And my auntie, another cousin said, do you know what? No, this woman's jealous. She sees you as a youth, somebody who's growing up. The guys are watching now. They're looking. That woman's jealous. And that stuck with me. I thought, how odd. You're older than me. When you're 13, 30 sounds ancient. But I remember that, and actually a couple of my friends remember it too, because that came up, a couple of years ago. We were talking about something. I think I remember racing George. I remember racing him on my English racer, my bike. And I won, but I fell. I think I won. I'm pretty sure I did. Oh, I think it may have been that we don't know who won because I fell. I still have a scar. There were 2 little scars on my upper right thigh. You can slightly see them. But, it wasn't anything huge or anything. I mean, I got up and brushed myself off and went home. It wasn't a big deal. It weren't tears or anything. It wasn't that bad. But it was fun. It was fun. When you're 12, 13, it was fun. However, because of that, and so my grandparents were also known to don't mess with us either. But this lady was new to the neighborhood, and she wouldn't have known that. But there's I will say there's okay. So my grandparents owned a bar and restaurant in the French Quarter. They were very popular. They, during Mardi Gras, if we were there in February, which was rare because we were in school, they looked, my grandparents looked nice. They always looked really well. All our family did. Our family has always taken pride in their appearance, and there is nothing wrong with that. My mother was a seamstress. She was sought after by businesses to sew. And my first career was in fashion. My father used to have his shoes custom made. Now, a part to that was because he had quite narrow feet. I didn't inherit that. Just the opposite. And him having his shoes custom made. Anyway, some of the photos of them are just amazing. I would love to share them, but I'm very I'm very private about that. But the looks, and I recently had some of the photos restored, and there's a beautiful picture of the bar and restaurant, and there's a group of people in there, having a good time. But you should see how they were dressed. It's incredible. They look stunning. They all look amazing. So we've always had pride and taken pride in how we dress. And if you're a gossip, if you have no filter, if you cannot keep confidences, then that reeks of envy. It means you don't respect anyone. And narcissists are wreaked with envy. It pours out of their very existence. Their purpose in life is to destroy healthy people. They want to bring people down. And people who sit around and watch others be bullied by narcissists and do nothing are as guilty as they are. If you watch people in prestige positions and they sit around and allow bullying, that's a weak stance. And I have no respect for anyone who does that. So there's the personal side, our own insecurities, our upbringing, our personality traits, and then there's the environment. Cultural norms in Western capitalist societies, because we see the car, the house, the title, that can influence somebody, or it can drive somebody to be envious. And all of this curated show on social media is creating chaos in people's lives. And you have got to take breaks from it if you suffer from it. Workplace hierarchy, so in competitive environments, envy can spike whenever someone advances faster than you do, or it can spike when somebody appeared to be a favorite. And that comes from family dynamics. So if there's been parental favoritism, that can plant seeds of comparison from childhood. And so parents out there, guardians out there, teachers, if you are in any position, counselors, mental health counselors, psychotherapists, if you're out there working with the youth, always be aware that you must encourage and you must display evenness amongst them. An example would be if you are an envious educator, let's say you're a teacher who's envious, and again, this goes back to the older person being jealous or envious of a younger person, and it can be vice versa. Children can become very envious of their parents. Ask Sigmund Freud. And so, and there are others. There's lots of research out there about that.
Let's take a quick break from the show. And if you're enjoying today's episode of the Inquisitive Wren podcast, we'd love your support. Leaving a review, hitting that like button, and subscribing on your favorite platform not only helps us grow, but also ensures you never miss an inspiring conversation. Your comments mean the world to us. They spark new ideas, they connect us with incredible guests, and keep the energy flowing. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or watching on YouTube, or listening on your favorite platform, take a moment to share your thoughts and spread the word. Together, we're building a community that celebrates curiosity, growth, and transformation. Thank you for being a part of the Inquisitive Wren. Now, let's dive back into today's episode.
If you are someone who suffers from envy, you may have a student who clearly has musical talents. Clearly. You may have heard them sing, or if you have band practice, you may have heard them play an instrument to perfection at the age of 8. You may encourage them if you don't suffer from envy. You may even tell the parents, if you can, try and get them some tutoring because they have talent. But if you come from envy, from a place of envy, you'll envy that in that child so young. knowing that they've got that talent. So you may try and sabotage the person. You may say, oh, you're not any good at that. You should try something else. We do hear stories of teachers telling students, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never amount to anything. And that's just soul destroying. This is a child, and even if you're 16 leaving school, saying to a child, you'll never amount to anything, is horrific. So parents, teachers, educators, if you're in any position to teach, please inspire, please motivate, and please take care. Approach it with love, concern, and do your job, and stop harassing or belittling students and younger people. Encourage them. As we're wrapping up, let's just touch upon family dynamics. We talked about rivalry, so parental favoritism, competition for love and attention, and envy can become internalized, and it can shape the adult attachment patterns. How you relate to other people, that will stay with you for your life, for the rest of your life. Envy at work is a leading cause of employee disengagement, micromanagement, and covert sabotage, particularly seen in hierarchical or toxic competitive environments. Vecchio talked about the envy in managers, but subordinates can often envy managers as well. Let's spot the signs in yourself and in others. So how do you know when envy is creeping in for you? And for you, it might look like you're feeling that sinking heaviness when someone shares good news. You immediately compare it to yourself and see yourself as lesser than. You minimize another person's success by saying maybe, oh, they just got lucky. You're obsessively checking someone's updates to see how they're doing, see what they're up to, see where they are. You may have very harsh self-talk about why you are behind. You see yourself as behind. And in others, it might look like subtle undermining or a lack of congratulations. Avoidance when you're doing well. Imitating without acknowledgement. I touched upon that earlier. That is huge. Imitating people without acknowledging them. Spreading rumors and gossip. And some symptoms of envy are feeling discontent when others succeed, obsessively tracking someone else's progress, and also looking at people always through the eyes of greed, coveting what other people have. But here's the good news. Finally you say, here's the good news. Envy can be transformed. Name it without shame. And you can say, I feel envious without moralizing it. Or I feel jealous of them. I feel jealous of them. Emotions aren't sins, and that's the thing. They're not sins, they're signals. Emotions are signals. So I always like to say, get curious. Be curious about your envy. Ask yourself, what's going on with me? And also ask yourself, what is this showing me about what I want? What is this showing me about me? Because envy often points to unacknowledged desires. Maybe you didn't realize you needed a holiday, and that's why all those posts on Instagram are making you feel horrible about yourself. Reframe envy as inspiration instead of why them. I hate that for them. If it's possible for them, it's possible for me. You can say that to yourself. If it's possible for them, surely it's possible for me. And start a gratitude practice. Look around you. Be grateful for the things that you have. Actively focus on what's already good in your life to dilute the scarcity mindset, because it is a mindset. control your input. So mute people, unfollow them, unfollow all those accounts. Get rid of your Pinterest. Do what you need to do to regulate yourself, to get back to your baseline, your norm. Now, if you're someone who's always suffered from envy, it will take a few tries. You will have to work at it. But unfollow, mute people. If it's triggering you, mute it. You wouldn't keep drinking coffee if you've got an ulcer and your doctor has said, look, every time you drink coffee, it will act up. Unless you're a sadist. Celebrate others consciously. Train your brain to associate other success with possibility and not threat. Practice self-compassion. Practice self-compassion. And I got this from Kristen Neff's Self-Compassion Break, 2011. It helps to soothe inner criticism. So reframe it and reflect. Ask yourself, what is this envy trying to teach me about what I truly desire? And that will help to turn the envy into inspiration by identifying actionable steps. The gratitude practices are very helpful because you will learn that actually things aren't so bad for you. Celebrate other people consciously. Train your brain to look at, I can get that. I can do that. You may even find that actually you don't want that. And have some boundaries around the triggers. So that means the unfollowing, the muting. Try for 30 days. You will see a difference. And I'd like to leave you with a short reflection. So take a moment. Think of someone you've recently felt envy toward. Notice what exactly they have that you do not want them to have and why. How does them not having that affect your life? Now imagine asking them, how did you get there? If it's something they have, ask them, well, how did you get there? How did you build that business, get that degree, marry that person? Visualize them telling you every step, such as, well, I applied and I got on the course. It was a lot, but I did it. Or I started dating and I met someone. We fell in love and now we're married. You will find that it's very simple. There's no tricks. And if it can be for them, it can be for you. But it may look different. And that's the trick. Everything for everyone isn't for everyone. What's one action you could take today, no matter how small, that brings you closer to that thing in your own way? Peace for one person may be them camping in the wilderness. Peace for you may be you staying at home and reading a book. And when you're ready, take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. Remember, envy doesn't have to shrink you. It can point you toward the life you want to create. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections with me over on Instagram or Threads, or sign up for my Aligned Living newsletter. I'm obsessed with the content. I absolutely love giving you something every month that you can hold on to, you can sink your teeth into. Free resources, guided meditations, exclusive workshops, discounts to my courses, all to help you create your own breakthroughs. So until next time, remember, you're not behind. You're simply on your path. And the more you honor that, the less envy has to say. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Inquisitive Wren podcast. I appreciate you listening. Apple Podcast listeners, if you don't already, make sure that you have auto download turned on. Very important. Question of the day for the episode: what stood out for you and what was your biggest takeaway from the episode? It helps me to know, and it helps other listeners as we focus on our community. Hit me up on the Inquisitive Wren on socials and email inquiswrenpod@gmail.com. If you're listening as an Inquisitive Wren All Access member, thank you for supporting the show. I appreciate it so much. And if not, become a member now by going to the Inquisitive Wren /membership. Members can listen to every episode ad-free. Plus, you'll get free resources like meditations and visualizations and episodes that you don't get anywhere else. Early access episodes and discounts to events and in-person appearances. I've got one coming up in October. You don't want to miss that. It's the Inquisitive Wren /membership for details. Rate and review the show and follow us on IG, TikTok, and Facebook at The Inquisitive Wren. And on YouTube at YouTube/The Inquisitive Wren. What we're building here goes beyond content. It's a community of curious minds. So until we meet again, stay curious.